Hey, what's up, folks? Today, I want to talk about I just want to give you some tips of what not to do to get your offers accepted. And I've really started seeing some of these things happen not quite a year ago, but close to a year ago, really once this market started picking up. And the vast majority of my business is listings. So I get to see kind of how the sellers respond to everything. And I've just kind of come up with these 9 things that I've seen buyers do that put sellers on the defense or make sellers not want to move forward with that buyer, even if they have a good offer. So the first thing I'm going to say is, number one, the most important thing is you need to be using an agent that truly knows the marketplace that you're working in. And the reason is this going to lead us directly into number 2, which is going to be stop asking so many questions up to the point of going under contract. And I'll give you a good example. Last week, I put up 2 listings, and we're going to be using these for some examples in this video today. But one of the listings, the buyer agent called me and said, "Hey, we see that there was some foundation work done on this particular property. Do you have a printout or any information on it?" And I explained to the agent that unfortunately I wouldn't be able to get that paperwork for another 2 to 3 days. So long story short, those buyers didn't want to submit an offer until they saw the printout, even though I explained to the agent what was done, and it was done through the builder, and that's why it was going to take a little bit longer to get the paperwork. Those folks lost the home because the next day we had a good offer come in, and then that was ultimately the offer that the sellers decided to move forward with. And actually on that property, we only received 1 offer, and those original buyers might have got that home had they not stressed out so much about the foundation repairs. Now I understand what you're saying as a buyer. I was like, well, Chris, this is kind of important. I agree with you, but you could have addressed this during the option period and not missed out on submitting an offer on that home if you really liked it. You could take care of these things during the option period. And this is something I see a lot now. You know, buyers have a lot of questions like, is the home's in a PID? How much is the PID? Where's the outline of the PID? What are the taxes? You know, where's the schools? What are the schools rate? Listen, you could take care of all that stuff. If you don't like the house, then don't worry about it. But if you really like the home and you know that's an area you want to look in, you should kind of already have some of these questions answered before you're out looking at homes, just in my opinion, because you don't have the time to address all this stuff. And this is nothing new, by the way. I know a lot of people act like this market is bananas, like we've never seen this before. I've been seeing multiple offers on my listings since 2013, and it's been pretty consistent ever since then. So it's not like home goes up on the market and you got to submit an offer pretty quickly as a new thing. It's been going on for almost a decade now. Don't put a lot of demands on your contract. And I'll see this sometimes, and it will be, you know, the buyer will put in the contract, home to be professionally clean upon vacating, right? So basically what you're telling is before you even go under contract with the sellers, you're telling the sellers that they need to have the house clean before they move out. Once they've moved out of the home, it needs to be clean before the buyers take possession. I'm gonna give you 2 examples of why I think this is a bad idea. Now, my personal home that I live in right now, when we bought it, it was just an S show. It was a complete flip job. And I really believe that had I put something in there, I thought about putting it in the offer, like all personal items to be removed from the property, but I decided not to. Now, when we closed on the home, anybody that lived in my neighborhood knows exactly what house it was because the sellers had left furniture in the front yard, trash, it was horrible. Now, it cost me a little bit of money to get everything taken out, but at the end of the day, I had a new home. Had I put that stipulation in the offer in the beginning, I might not have been able to purchase the home. Maybe they would have gone with another offer. So yeah, it kind of sucked at the moment because it was a lot of crap to clean up, but I still got the home. Now, I just closed on a personal rental property a few weeks ago. Very similar situation. I actually pitched it this way to the seller. I told the seller, like, hey, you don't have to get anything out of the home. You don't have to do anything. Just get out, let's close on the home, and I'll take care of everything afterwards. And I had to get a really big dumpster and get all the gross beds and furniture and a couch and just miscellaneous trash and an attic that was full of tons of boxes and all kinds of crap. I had to get all that out, and it cost me about $700 between getting a 27 or 25 yard dumpster and getting everything out of the home. But at the end of the day, I had the home. If I'd been so focused on putting that in the contract, I might not have got the home. So focus on the prize. don't nitpick it right at the beginning. And that's also going to give sellers like, man, if they're asking for this already, what are they going to ask for during the option period? So just keep that in mind. So number 4, make sure everything is in one email. So this is also to the buyer, you need to have all your ducks in a row. So when your agent asks for stuff, you can have it all ready. And then also for the buyer, I don't really know how to tell you how to manage your agent that you're working with, because you never want to be a micromanager. But at the same time, I do think it's really important when you're submitting offers as an agent, if you submit it all in one offer. Now, remember I said I put up 2 listings this past week? Well, one of the listings got 7 offers on it. And one of the offers, it was really confusing to follow it because there were 3 different people that sent me 3 different emails with 3 different attachments that were needed to make one whole offer essentially. And then those 3 different people on that team also called and emailed me. So it wasn't like it was 3 different emails. It was 3 different emails from 3 different people. So we had the offer and everything in one email. Then we had another addendum in another email because they forgot it. And then they sent their pre-qual letter in a 3rd email. So it's kind of complicated to get it all together. And then the points of contact were 3 different people. So it's like, which one do I call to try to get all the information? And it really wasn't even the best offer. And you leave yourself open to a potential listing agent not even getting all that because there's so many emails, something might go to spam or something might happen. It's just best if you send it all in one email and then call and text the agent. Call. If they don't answer, then shoot them a text. Hey, this is Chris with Keller Williams. I just want to let you know that I've submitted you an offer. Here's the email it came for. If you could, please receipt it. That's all you got to do. It's just that simple. A lot of agents are making this super duper confusing. They want to have these long-winded conversations. They want to ask a bajillion questions that aren't pertinent to the offer. And it can be a little difficult as a listing agent when you're getting inundated with phone calls. And every phone call is about 6 to 8 minutes, which doesn't sound long, but you'd be amazed how many hours you can burn in a day of just having conversations with agents and things of that nature. So, and a lot of agents don't have time for that. And unfortunately, there's some agents out there that are part-time agents and they have a full-time job. I'm not saying it's right. I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm just saying that is something that you have to take into consideration. So you need to make sure everything goes out as streamlined as possible to put your offer in the best position to getting accepted. Another one is make sure you submit your best offers first, right? So random number here. Let's say you have a $100,000 home and you're like, you know what? If I could get that house for $95,000, that'd be amazing. But I'd be willing to pay $110 for the home. Well, pending comps and things of that nature, go ahead and submit that $110 offer. Because and also ask yourself this, if you submitted $110 and you lost that home, would you be mad at yourself, or would you just be like, man, that sucks, but I offered the most I could. I did the best I could. I didn't get the home. Therefore, it's out of my control. I have found it makes it a little bit easier to lose a home when you submitted the best offer you could versus holding back a little. And then especially if you see that, let's say that same scenario, you offered, let's say 95, you were willing to do 110, and then you see that the home sold for 110. You're going to be like, damn it, I wish I would have just offered 110. So don't give yourself, or don't plan on a best and final. Submit your best offer forward. And also you're seeing less and less sellers doing best and finals. They're doing offer deadlines. So instead of, let's say on a Monday at 5 p.m. saying, best and final by Monday at 5 p.m., you're seeing offer deadline. So the sellers aren't inviting the buyers after submitting an offer to resubmit a better offer. They're just kind of going forward with the best offer they have at that point. Number 6 is going to be stop with the letters. There's a few reasons why. One, I'm not going to go into because I'm not an attorney, but there is some potential legal ramifications that could fall on the shoulders of a seller if they read these personal letters from buyers. Another thing is a lot of sellers just don't want to see them anymore. Now, I know what somebody will say, well, Chris, our house, we got our offer accepted because of a personal letter. Well, that's right. And about 1.5 years ago, 2 years ago, those letters were extremely powerful. But there's been some changes that have been made in the industry. And sellers are kind of hip to it. They know what's going on. They know that the buyer is just trying to pull on the heartstrings. It's no longer comes across as authentic. It comes across as salesman-y, and it just kind of pisses off more sellers than I'm seeing it help. Now, that is going to all go to the side if you see something in the home that connects you with the seller. So when I'm in a home, if I have a good relationship or I know a little bit about my buyers, I'm going to be looking for little cues like, oh, hey, they went to the same college, or, oh, hey, both husbands are Marines, or both people are firefighters, or there's some sort of connection there where the letter then could come off as authentic and truly a way to connect with the sellers. Now, as I mentioned before, there's some legal ramification that falls on the shoulder of the seller agent or listing agent, in my opinion. As the buyer agent, I'm trying to position my buyers in the best position to get their offers accepted. So I don't just do blanket little mushy gushy letters to the sellers. If I can find a real connection somehow and I could spin that some way where I could maybe make a connection, I'll do it. But very seldom anymore, because I am seeing it rub sellers the wrong way versus actually enticing them to accept your offer. And then that's going to lead into number 7, which is, for the love of God, people, do not DM the sellers through social media. Whatever social media is, or email or whatever. If you find a way to get a hold of the sellers, please don't. I'll give you 2 examples. One, have you ever had a conversation with your significant other, whether it be your husband or wife or whatever, where you meant something one way, but the individual you were saying it to interpreted it completely different, and they're mad at you, and you're like, what? What is going on here? I'm pretty sure every married couple has gone through that situation, and that's kind of how I see with some of these sellers and the buyers. The buyers send a message to the sellers receive it a way that was not intended, and that seller might decide, oh, I don't want to work with that buyer. They seem a little bit too aggressive or a little weird, or I don't know. We have other offers. We'll go with them. And then it also reminds me, because some of these things, they're just comical. And for whatever reason, the seller just looks into it and they decide they don't want to work with that particular buyer, or maybe they don't want to sell to that buyer. Maybe they don't want their neighbors to live next to somebody that came off a little cuckoo. Now, number 8 is, don't give the sellers deadlines. Now, what is a deadline? Well, you can put it in your offer that, let's say, after 24 hours, this contract becomes null and void. I really wouldn't do that, because it's not going to hurt you to let your offer sit there. So let's just say you submit an offer on a Tuesday, and let's say Thursday or Friday rolls around and your offer is just sitting there because the seller's trying to collect as many offers and accept something on Saturday. It's not going to hurt you as a buyer to just let your offer sit there. Now, if you're a buyer and you find another home that you really like and you submit an offer on that and you go under contract, you can just retract that offer to protect you so that seller doesn't sign off on it. But I wouldn't try to strong arm the sellers into, you better take my offer or we're walking in 24 hours. I've just seen it backfire more times than it's actually helped a buyer secure a property. And then, so that's going to lead me right into number 9 there is, be really careful whether maybe it's you, if you're a little bit more prone to being an aggressive bulldog salesman-y type, or the agents you're working with. This is not the time, in my opinion, to be working with these really aggressive, just bulldog mentality, like, we're going to get your offer accepted, right? Like showing up to the open house and trying to act tough to the listing agent to get your offer accepted. That's not a good idea. First of all, you never know how that's going to be perceived. You like somebody from like me personally, I've had this happen. It just makes me laugh. I feel bad for the buyer agent, but you'll see some of these agents come in and they're trying to pull the salesman stuff. It's like, listen, I don't accept the offer. It's the sellers ultimately. So I don't really understand what you're trying to do with me necessarily. Cause like, I can't convince my sellers to take a particular buyer. So I don't know why you're here doing this. It's kind of awkward at this point. And then I'll explain that to my sellers and they're like, oh yeah, I don't want to work with that. But I'll give you a good example that happened actually last year. And we put a house on the market. A buyer submitted an offer on it. It wasn't a bad offer. It was actually a little bit below list price. But we had listed this home really at the top of the market. And my sellers couldn't quite decide, like, they're like, Chris, do we counter? Do we not counter? What do we do? And I can tell my sellers were they couldn't quite decide what to do. I said, well, how about we do this? Let's just invite the buyers to submit a new offer. It's not uncommon. I do it all the time. And most of the time it works out really well, especially in the market we've been in for the past, let's say 2 years. Well, this agent, for some reason, it rubbed this individual the wrong way and they got very upset. Their broker reached out to my broker. They submitted this form saying that the sellers had to sign it to prove that I had submitted the offer to the sellers, because the buyer and the agent were convinced that my sellers didn't review the offer. I don't know why this took place. But really long story short, the sellers just said, screw it. We don't want to settle these people. We don't even want to work with them. We don't want to go through the stress of dealing with this choice of words person for the next 30, 35 days. So, we're going to go ahead and just wait for another offer to come in. The crazy thing is these sellers were really happy with their original offer. They just wanted to see if they could maybe get a little bit more because they were building a new construction and they were kind of getting, well, I can't think of an appropriate word to say, but the builder was definitely bending them over the barrel. And they were just trying to get a little bit of extra money out of their sale to offset what the builder was doing to them. But those sellers were pretty happy with that offer. And if that agent would have just submitted a higher offer versus just trying to prove their point, that agent probably would have got the home under contract for their buyer. So I just don't think it's a good time to be working with like really, really aggressive agents. I'll give you another real good example and then we'll wrap this video up. Let's just say you had an agent come out to your house. And well, I'll just use myself for an example. At the end of a listing appointment, I always ask the same thing. I say, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, given the information that I've provided with you today, do you feel comfortable that I could get your property sold and everything's going to work out well? And do you feel comfortable moving forward with me? 95 almost % of the time, the people say, yeah, Chris, that's great. But sometimes people say, Chris, we kind of want to sleep on it. Can you give us 24 hours and we'll talk to you tomorrow? Now I have two options at that point. I could say, you know what? I can appreciate that. I'll tell you what, I'm going to sit at the table, go ahead and cook dinner, do whatever you got to do. I'm going to sit here until you've had time to think about it. And then once we're done with the paperwork, I'll go ahead and leave. Well, most sellers are going to tell me, get the fuck out of my house. Or I could say, hey, you know what, Mr. and Miss Seller, I can totally appreciate that. I'll tell you what, if you have any questions at all or any concerns, I'm available. Shoot me a text, give me a call, whatever you want to do. But I'll talk to you tomorrow and then we can address any concerns that you have then. And then I leave gracefully. Most of the time I get the listing even after I leave, but I guarantee you if I sat there and was super persistent and came off rude, there's no way in hell I'd get that listing. And that's kind of what I'm seeing with some of these buyer agents. They're just coming off way too aggressive. And since the sellers don't have to work with those individuals because there's other options, they choose not to work with those individuals. So that's it, folks. That's the end of the video. I hope these 9 tips were helpful. Once this video ends, I'm going to list these tips out again, just so you can see them, because I know I talked a little bit and went into detail on each one of these, but hopefully it was helpful for those buyers out there that are on the struggle bus with getting their offers accepted. So until next time, have a great day.